So To the Abandoned Sacred Beast has finally arrived. This was one of the anime that I was most excited for coming into this season. Of course, you're going to have your heavy hitters of the season like always, but I wasn't seeing too many people discuss this one, and based on the premise, it sounded pretty damn interesting, and having another Mappa anime on Mondays, I'm not going to be complaining. And I'll be honest, the first half of this episode threw me for a loop because based on the premise, it kind of sounded like there were these humans, they were bred for battle to turn into like these monstrous beasts to pretty much win a war, and then where would that go afterwards? And then the first half of this episode, it was very comfy and fun. You just have a bunch of characters who are basically revered as God, because you have one side of the war who is pretty much being annihilated. In comes their secret weapon who turns the tide, and the war is won in just a matter of weeks when it looked like all hope was gone for them. And they were having a lot of almost like shonen design comedy of who likes who, over-exaggerated reactions, and I was like, this is rather fun. And I think the first half of this episode is brilliant because it makes you think it's going to be a one-trick pony. It's going to have a lot of comedy, it's going to have some action, and these characters aren't going to struggle. This episode, at 3 points, subverted my expectations. And the first half of this episode, which I thought was fun but really nothing remarkable, ended up becoming really satisfying setup to the payoff that we would get. Because I was noticing this, it was very clear as day that clearly the more they use these powers, as you have this Dr. Elaine who pretty much bred them to be like turning into like dragons or just serpents, just monsters they shouldn't be, and the more they used it, some of these people, when they reverted back to their human form, they weren't fully reverting back. So I was obviously expecting something to happen, but my kind of thought was they were going to maybe just die and there'd be like some emotional scenes like that. And then when you get the punchline of how like the more they use it, the less human they become, and they kind of side with their animal instincts, and how they could easily betray their own people, it's very fascinating, and it makes that setup so damn satisfying. Because at first I was thinking, yeah, it's fun comedy, it's fun action for what we're seeing, but nothing really is hooking me at this moment. And then when you see that it was just starting the setup to make you feel safe and let your guard down, when characters just start running rampant and just destroying their own people, destroying the soldiers they were fighting for, you're seeing both sides of the soldiers just getting annihilated by one of their kind of top gods of this battle. It's very heartbreaking to see what has to happen, and that's where this series really takes flight, because after that moment you see all bets are off. This is just going to be horrible, and it's going to make us feel some things. The second point that really subverted my expectations was Elaine. I mean, she was the one who bred these soldiers for battle. I thought it was just heartbreaking to see what she came to the conclusion that after this war's done, because there's going to be a peace treaty, there's going to be no place for people like you, because you're going to be more dangerous than any war, because everyone's going to lose control of their minds and kill the ones they love. And she literally tries to kill our main character, Hank, which I thought was such a great moment, because once again my guard was down, and I was like, okay, yeah, something's going to happen. I thought she would kill herself in guilt, not that she would kill everyone, including herself, because she realizes that her soldiers are worse than any war. And then the third punchline comes with our boy Kane, who I thought would be one of our main characters, who ends up becoming the villain, who says, nah, screw that shit, I'm not dying, and kills Elaine. Now, it's granted, Elaine could still be alive, we didn't see her body, things like that, so they could pull a fast one on us, but for a show that started off to be so fun, so comfy, and I thought it'd be fine, but maybe nothing I need to review, to the punchline of how they were all losing their minds, some faster than others, to then the doctor who bred them for battle, the man who loves Elaine having to get nearly killed by her, to what appears to be his best friend Kane, or at least a very close comrade, to not only betraying him, but betraying the person he loves. There's just a lot of just ups and downs within this show to make you feel safe, let your guard down, and make you think this is what the show wants to be, and it's not until the episode wraps up that you can actually figure out what Sacred Beast is supposed to be. And it seems like it is going to be a revenge story where we have Hank, our main character, who really hasn't lost himself with his powers as of yet, who is going to be hunting down his comrades who kind of disappeared and are all kind of lost in their animal instincts, and how we're obviously going to have another character based on the poster in the end of this episode that will probably tag along with Hank. This episode, I thought, did a lot right and very little wrong. If I was just looking at the first half and didn't see the second half, I probably would have criticized the first half quite a bit for not really giving us stakes and making us feel like characters are actually struggling. But based on where this episode ultimately went, the characters definitely struggled and they killed people left and right. And based on the reactions, it made us emotional alongside the characters. I think just the overall setup, I just feel like it showed us so much. It almost felt like we watched a season of an anime and then we just started its sequel. But that's actually not a bad thing. This setup is actually a lot better than quite a few military anime where they try to set you up on saying like, this is what happened to the war, this is where your character's at. It just felt as if we saw what their lives were like. We understood the stakes of one side of this war. It felt as if all hope was lost, and then in comes what people are viewing as gods, then how those gods become their devil after they kind of lose control of their minds. And just, it's going to be very interesting to see where the narrative truly wants to go, because as of right now, it seems like Hank is going to have to kill his fallen soldiers. That's not going to be easy for him, but in this episode, they do say that we're not going to let anyone other than ourselves kill each other if we have to, because the first person who loses his mind gets killed by just random normal people, and that's not how they kind of made their pact. They want to make sure that they take each other's lives, so it's more of a respectful way of going out rather than a tank blasting you and killing you. So obviously we're going to kill many soldiers along the way, and maybe some of them won't actually have lost their minds and will be able to join Hank. And clearly this is all going to be driven by Kane and his pissed off rage of, why did you do this, and I'm going to cut off your head. That's clearly the overall narrative that we're going to see, but I do expect there will be other stories, kind of small and large, depending on what's going on. Maybe it'll be a random story of the week. Maybe it'll be something related to this, this kind of peace treaty and what ultimately happened by the end of the episode. I think they have quite a few routes that they could make this one core actually pretty damn fun. I really do expect that this will be a very fun show to watch every week, get up here and review every week and discuss with you. I think this will be a very fun one overall. We have such a season with very big shows that are going to be discussed about and hyped up. Finland Saga, Fire Force, Dr. Stone. Of course, people are going to watch and be excited about these, but I hope this isn't going to be one that falls under the radar. It's Mappa, it's very easy to watch, it's on Crunchyroll, things like that. I really hope this one gets picked up because the first half is going to throw some people for a loop. Maybe you'll love it, maybe you'll hate it, but when you see where it goes in the second half, I think we got something special here. It really threw me for a loop. I was on a roller coaster going up and down throughout this episode, and I was very happy. I really do enjoy the overall designs for these beasts because they are just so grotesque. They feel as if, literally, if you were to take a normal human in our own world and turn them into a snake, turn them into a dragon, something like that, it feels so unnatural and disgusting based on their designs. And when you see how they're interacting with these humans and how, like, they're sucking out their life, it feels as if, yeah, you understand why they are pretty much gods in this world and why they could turn the tide of a war that seemingly was lost for them in a matter of days and weeks, because they are just ridiculous based on their visuals, and you can tell that they wouldn't have too much struggle against modern technology in this time and age. So I really liked how the overall visuals looked for the art. There wasn't too much animation overall. There was a couple of moments with these beasts where, like, they would release poisonous gas or they would do a really cool move, but for the most part, when we were watching these kind of characters and just animals destroy people on the battlefield, it was mostly still frames. Luckily, the still frames were very well drawn, so when you just looked at a still frame, heard some sound effects and voice acting, it didn't feel like we were looking at something that didn't feel menacing. It absolutely felt menacing and devastating just based on the carnage that we were seeing. And now that we're into the actual story of what this season is going to be telling, I expect for the most part, most action sequences are going to be pretty well animated, just based on the small glimpses we did see of actual animated combat, and knowing Mappa and how they usually do pretty well with animation, especially in their first core. And because this isn't going to be a 2-core, which is typically the second core is where Mappa productions suffer in production. So honestly, I think this will be a pretty interesting one just on a just standard visual level, just looking at it at a first glance. But I think with just having such interesting characters both on the human and also beast level, they could have a lot of interesting fights, just seen by just the sheer variety of each soldier and what they could do. I love the Viper in this episode, just literally just poisoning people around them. There's a lot of interesting things they could do, but I was very impressed with this episode. I thought Hank was a fun character. He had a likable personality. He seemed a little generic in the first half, but based on the second half, I can definitely see the soldier and how he could just inspire people to follow him. Elaine was definitely my favorite character. Best girl, best doctor, who unfortunately went a little yandere and decided to kill the love interest, but hey, I can understand her motivations, especially because after what you're seeing, your creation is just going to keep getting worse and worse. There's no cure, there's no solution. Let's kill everyone. Unfortunately, it's a hard pill to swallow, but you understand where she was coming from. And it's not like she wanted to live herself. She wanted everyone to just go out because there's no way that this could continue. This would be even worse than a war. But because we didn't see her body, because people don't know where her body went, it's possible she could be returning eventually in the future. Maybe Kane had a little bit of a love interest too and decided to kidnap her, something like that. Definitely a possibility, but hopefully Kane's motivations are fun to explore. But overall, I had some pretty high expectations. I wouldn't say like this was coming into this episode, it was like my most anticipated. It was like the show I was most interested in watching in terms of like a hidden gem mindset. And honestly, it met everything that I was hoping for and a little bit more, just based on how many times I was like, okay, I understand what this show wants to be. Nope, I don't know. Okay, I understand what the show wants to be. Nope, okay, she's gonna kill him. Oh, now he's gonna kill her. Holy shit, this episode just had a lot of emotions. And honestly, for the first episode, for how fast it went through a war, I felt like the pacing was actually pretty tight for what it was trying to set up for the future of this story. I thought this was a great first episode. Hopefully a lot of people will enjoy and watch this one alongside with me. But let me know what everyone thought of the first episode to the Abandoned Sacred Beast. Did you love it? Did you hate your favorite moment? Where do you think the story is going to go from here? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have big news. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.